Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So we were in the section of the Vivekachudamani where Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is dealing with the process of de-hypnotization. That it is an erroneous, it is a delusional feeling that we are the body-mind complex. And not only that, even through this body-mind complex, the external world which we are perceiving, that also appears to be real. So this both are delusional, illusory. We have to go beyond that to be aware of our real self, and that entails in that entails in realization, that entails in liberation. So now we will enter into the 289th verse as a continuation of that section. So what it is saying? Swaprakashang adhishthanam swayang bhuya sadatmana brahmandapi pindandang tyajyatam malabhandavat. So what it's saying? So becoming, say yourself, like the self-effulgent Brahman, being aware that you are Brahman, you are not this limited body-mind complex, that you are one with the entire existence. That's the Brahman, the idea of the Brahman is there. That knowing that you are the Brahman, which is the substratum of the entire phenomenal existence. That in Sanskrit it is saying the swaprakasham, that there is no need for any light to illumine the self. The self is self-luminous. Because of it, everything becomes luminous. The consciousness is the self-luminous fundamental entity, because of which everything appears to exist. So that's why it is called Swaprakasha. It reveals itself. It doesn't need the borrowed light of any other entity to reveal itself. So it is Swaprakashta. Adhisthana. What is the word Adhisthana means? It is a substratum. It is a substratum of all that we see to be existing in this world of name and form. So it is the Adhisthana, the substratum. Swayang Bhuya. So these words are very interesting. Swayang Bhuya. What it means? Bhuya means to be born. In this world, whatever is there, we know it was born at certain point of time because of certain causes. There is some cause which has resulted in the thing as an effect. The cause and effect relationship pertains to every object in this world. But here, the ultimate existence is being spoken of as Swayang Bhuya. That there is no cause for its existence. That nothing exists as a cause for its birth. It is ever existent, and it is the ultimate. It is the ultimate cause for everything that exists. So it is the ultimate, this cause of behind this entire universe. It is not the effect of anything. So that's what is meant by Swayang Bhuya. Sadatmana. So Sadatmana means that which exists always. That for our existence we find that we have an idea that it is limited. At certain point of time we were born. At certain point of time we are going to die, disintegrate. So in the past there was as such no existence. In the future there is not going to be any existence. For the time being I exist, and that also I am going through constant transformation. What are the transformation? The six Shada Vikara, the sixfold transformation. Jayate asti viparinamate apakshiyate. Jayate asti vardhate viparinamate apakshiyate nasti. So what is this? We are born, we exist for certain period of time, and first there is a growth, and then the growth stops, there is a transformation, and then the decay process starts, and at last there is annihilation. So we find that our existence was not there in the past, is not going to be there as a limited being, it is not going to be in the future, and as long as I am existing, I am going through constant transformation, this sixfold transformation. But the self is always existent in all the three phases of time. It was, it is, it will be. That's why it is called, it is something which is trikal avadhita. Its existence is not interrupted by any phase of time, past, present, future. It always exists, and there is no transformation in it. It is just as if in the eternal present. The question of the factor of time comes whenever there is a transformation. When there is a transformation, then the question of time comes. This was such and such, it has become now such and such. And then the lapse of time is measured by the duration in which the transformation has happened. But if something is just eternally present without any transformation, the concept of time falls off. It is in the eternal present. So that's the idea of Sadatmana. It was, it is, it will be, ever existent without any transformation. So that's the idea of Sadatmana. So that's the self, the ultimate self which we are. And then what in the second line, what is being said? Brahmandapi pindandang tyajyatang malabhandavat. So these are the two things. When I close my eyes, I am aware of the existence something within. My feelings, my thoughts, my emotions, everything is going on within. It itself creates its own world. The microcosm which is within, it creates its own world. There is a world within. That is called Pindandam. Pinda means something very small. And Brahmanda means something which is big. Now I open my eyes, I see this external world. To me, both are real. When I close my eyes and I am trying to observe my feelings, emotions, thoughts, they're all real for me. I exist in this psychophysical existence with all those thoughts, feelings and emotions which constitute my personality. They are real to me. And when I open my eyes, open my senses, look out, this external world of name and form is real to me. So this Brahmanda and Pindanda, within and without. This is both Tyajyatang. Know it for certain, you are the self. The idea of this limited self which you have when you are diving within, and the idea of this macrocosm, this world which you have when you open your eyes, both are like the Malabhanda. Malabhanda means something which is like filthy. It is a filthy receptacle. It is something very filthy. It is like excreta. Malabhanda. So you have to reject them as if it is something very filthy. Because always you have to contemplate on the idea that you are the self. So this is the idea that what is being spoken of here, that we have to detach ourselves from the world. That speaks of the Vairagya. And not only that, and then we have to attenuate all our these desires which is within. This we have to transcend our attachment, detach ourselves from the external world, and within there are so many desires. We all have to get rid of them. How is it possible? So this Brahmanda Pindanda, this two things. You will find in the scriptures, whenever they speak of spiritual practice, it is twofold. Twofold. One is called Abhyasa and another is called Vairagya. Vairagya and Abhyasa. What is this? Vairagya means to develop detachment for the external world, And abhyasa means of practice. This mere detachment is not enough. Because we find in this world there are many so-called persons who are depressed, extremely depressed. They have no interest in the world. So in a way they are detached. But can we call them a spiritually evolved soul? No. The detachment has to be synchronized, has to be compounded with what? With abhyasa, with some practice, where it helps me to relate to the spiritual dimension. This two has to go hand in hand. Abhyasa, vairagya. So when you're trying to detach yourself from the external world, that speaks of vairagya. And when you're trying to get rid of all the feelings, thoughts and emotions which emanates from this idea of this limited self, the ego, that speaks of abhyasa, practice. That I am closing my eyes and I am just detaching myself from my thoughts, from my emotions, thinking always that I am the Atman, I am the self. I am not the thoughts, not the feelings, not the emotions, not this body, not the mind, not the senses. I am just the witness. I am as if witnessing them. They are not me. I am sitting on the bank of a river watching the flow. I am not in the river. This world is a flow. Our body, mind, senses, everything is a flow. They're constantly changing. I am just observing that. I am not in it. So this speaks of abhyasa. You have to practice. Why these two? These two are important. We will find that if I can dive deep into my psyche, I will find there are innumerable desires. It's not that only one desire, innumerable desires. And that too, I am not aware of all of them. Sometimes some of the desires are manifested with lot of struggle, with lot of willpower. I try to get rid of it. And then I will find another new desire has come up. There is no end to it. This is called vyakta vasana, avyakta, manifested and unmanifested. To give an example, suppose today I, for the first time, had just tasted a donut. I never had. So when I was having that experience, I just never lost. It is stored in the memory as the impression, latent impression, samskara. And then I get busy with the world. I forgot about the donut. And then one day I am again passing by this shop of this donut king or whatever it may be, passing. And just that enkindles that what was hidden, what was not manifested in my mind, it was just hidden in my mind, but it was there. Seeing that external stimuli, that enables to again evoke that impression. It comes back as memory. What was stored as latent impression, that comes back as smriti, as memory. So in our mind always we find some desires are manifested, some are not manifested. They require some favorable circumstances to manifest. Now how to get rid of all of them? It's not easy. Can I get rid of them one by one? Impossible. Then what's the way out? Unless I develop detachment from them all, there cannot be any spiritual evolution. But how to get rid of them? So there are so many. So the scripture speaks of these two things. One is vairagya. Vairagya comes first. That whatever desires have manifested, you can see them, use your willpower to a certain extent to control them. Develop a detachment. How is it possible? That willpower can be developed. Just the way I develop my muscles, in the same way I can develop my willpower. How I develop my muscle? It is something which is a feedback mechanism. I go to the gym, I work against the weight. I have an idea that working against the weight helps me to develop muscle. But actually it is not so. When I am working against the weight, actually what is happening? I am getting stressed out. If I work too much, the muscle cell gets ruptured. I develop sprain. Most probably for next 2 days I cannot go to the gym. And on the third day again when I go, I will find a wonderful thing. Most probably previous day I could just do some 10 push-ups. Now I can do 20 push-ups or 15 push-ups. Which shows that my strength has increased, my muscle has grown. How it has grown? When I, for the first day, was trying to overdo, my muscle cells were not strong enough. They ruptured. They actually ruptured. There was a damage. Now when it was growing, when I was taking rest, it was growing. Then the cells, each and every cell has a brain. The instruction came from the brain. What's the brain? What's the instruction? That nowadays these muscles are used much. So if you regrow just the exact number of cells which were there previously, we cannot take the stress because it is going through that stress. So we have to grow more muscle cells. So actually it's because of this feedback the muscle grows, not because of the exercise. The willpower also grows in the same way. For the first time, suppose I have taken a resolution of fasting. Some occasion is there, I will fast from morning till the evening. And now I find in the lunch time I am extremely hungry. If I somehow use my willpower and resist that hunger, very interesting thing. By late evening, you will find the hunger has gone. You are feeling light as you have not taken food throughout the day. Your body is very light and that craving has also gone. And that's why the fasting used to be done. So that in the late evening, we may have some special occasion where now I can concentrate my mind. I can sit down, meditate, contemplate without having to think of these bodily feelings in the form of hunger, thirst. They have gone. And as I have not eaten throughout the day, my body is very light. What has happened? As per my habit, at the lunch time, I was extremely hungry. The hunger is actually a biological alarm. The body's that alarm system sets in. That the pangs of hunger is that alarm. It's the time for you to take food, take food, take food. And you somehow don't comply to it. You don't yield to it. And then the alarm system becomes tired. It falls off. And then there is a period where you don't feel the pangs of hunger. And as you have not taken food, your body is very light. So you have to just forbear a small period of time where the pang of hunger is extreme, and then it's gone. And then you can spend most probably the quite late night you can spend without having food, and you can enjoy the spiritual practices for which that occasion is meant for. So what it speaks of? Just the way the feedback helped to grow the muscles, here also the feedback that I am not going to comply to the cravings. I'm not going to comply. Then what happens? After some time, all the cravings which are nothing but the biological alarm system, that falls off. For the time being. It's not that you can delay your gratification. You cannot just stim some, because for our sustaining our body, we have to have food. But we can delay the gratification. And with that can be used in some very qualitative way. I can have a qualitative meditation. And that's why in all the traditions we find this fasting is there. Now, there are many more reasons for which that fasting, research is there, because fasting is very, very beneficial even for our health. So we leave that apart. But here we understand that how the willpower can increase. To certain extent, if I use my willpower, then all the cravings which are nothing but the biological alarm system, that falls off for the time being, enabling me to continue for more time without yielding to that craving. That's called the delaying of the gratification. So that way we can develop the willpower gradually. We can develop the willpower. But as we were saying, by developing the willpower, I can get rid of a manifested desire to a certain extent. And then I will find some new desires are cropping up. Some favorable circumstances come, some other desire come. Now I feel extremely discouraged that how I can go on fighting with these desires one after other. It's almost endless. So what the scriptures say? That first calm your mind to a certain extent by getting rid of the manifested desires, by practicing this detachment, vairagya. And when the mind is calm to a certain extent, if the mind is not calm, I cannot meditate. Now, with that calm mind, try to contemplate on the fact that I am the Atman, I am the Brahman, I am not this body-mind complex, I am the self, I am not the thought, not the feelings, not the emotions, I am the self. This thought process, this is the abhyasa, this is the practice. This, how it helps? So as we always say, very interesting that our person, if I compare my personality with a wheel has a hub and it has many spikes. A wheel has a hub and has many spikes. Each spike is like the samskaras, the impressions of the mind, our desires. By willpower, I may get rid of one or two spikes, I may break them. But other spikes are there to keep my so-called limited personality intact. But if I get rid of the hub, then all the spikes will fall off. So in our personality, the hub is the ego. You'll find all our desires, likes and dislikes are centered on that ego. I like this, I don't like that. What is that I? That I is this limited self. When you are constantly contemplating, I am not this limited self, I am the witness of all the thoughts, feelings, I am the conscious principle, I am not this limited body-mind complex. You are as if hammering on that hub, constantly hammering on that hub. And when I succeed in hammering out the hub, all the spikes will collapse in one time. And that's the real renunciation, para vairagya. This, scriptures they say, that happens through abhyasa. So here, brahmanda and pindanda. How to get rid of them as malabhandavat, as if something which is very filthy. How? By practicing this abhyasa and vairagya. With the vairagya, I to certain extent calm down my mind by getting detached from the manifested desires. And then through the practice, I get rid of all the desires at a time by hammering out the ego. That falls off at last through that practice. Constantly you are asserting, I am not the body, not the mind, not the senses, not the feelings, not the emotions. I am the pure Atman, the witness of all this. This is hammering of the hub, and then that entails in the final, this collapsing of this meshwork of this body-mind senses, the mind with his body-mind senses, that collapses, taking me to that ultimate spiritual realization. So now you will understand that why Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is saying that get rid of this both Brahmanda and Pindanda, the world within and the world without. The world without have to get rid of by detachment, by vairagya, and within through abhyasa. So this is the idea which we find has been indicated in this verse. This same idea we will find that will be elaborated again in the next two verses. This pratyak, that there's two terms in Sanskrit, pratyak and parak. Pratyak means within, parak means without. How to get rid of all the thoughts, feelings, emotions, as we told through abhyasa, that's been spoken of in the 290th verse. What it is saying? Chidatmani sadanande deha arurang ahang dhyam niveshya lingam utsrijya kevalo bhava sarvada. So this is the practice. This transferring the identification. At present, my identification is with the body-mind complex. I have to shift it. I have to shift it from where? Which is now rooted in this body to the Atman. Chidatmani sadanande. Chit Atma. Chit, this consciousness. In that you have to shift. What is its nature? Sadananda. Sadanande deha arurang ahandya. This, from where you have to shift? From this deha. The idea of amness at present is manifesting in this deha. It is as if riding this deha. The idea of I. Deha arura. The one who is riding this deha. One who thinks that he is this body. This, and has the idea of this ego. Ahang dhyam. From that you have to shift to Chit Atma, Chidatmani. Niveshya Lingam Utsrijya Kevalo Bhava Sarvada. So this Niveshya Lingam, this Lingam word means, these words are very, very significant. Lingam means actually the mind. What really distinguishes one person from the other? It's all our thoughts. Not only the physical, our body. With our mind, as far as our mind is concerned, we will find we are all very unique. Our thoughts, our feelings, the way we relate to this external world, this all actually is are the constituents of the mind, are the functionings of the mind. And lingam means sign. The sign by which I can distinguish one thing from the other. That's the lingam. So, here lingam means, in one sense, the mind, which helps us to distinguish one person from the other as per our all unique thoughts, feelings, emotions. It's very important. Because of our particular way of thinking, because of our bias, all our perceptions are so different. We don't look at the world at the same way. All the delusion is created because of our biases. That wonderful example in Vedanta is there. What's that example? That suppose there is a stump of a tree on the corner of a park. And from a distance, you'll find what is happening. It's just a stump, a dead dog wood. In the twilight hours, in the evening, someone, most probably he is a thief, he has stolen something and now he is running away from the police. In the twilight hours, because the light is not sufficient, from a distance, he sees the stump and thinks it to be the police. The police, who is in search of the thief, from a distance thinks it to be the thief. A small child was playing with other children in the park. Now it's time to go home. It's getting dark. So this child knows somewhere mother is waiting for him. So this child is now searching the mother. From a distance it sees the stump. It thinks it is the mother. The mother who is waiting for the child thinks it to be the child. And now some lover came there in search of his beloved. And from a distance he thinks it to be the beloved. So just see the bias. As per your desire which is prominent, the perception changes. A simple stump appears to be so many things. So that's the idea of this lingam, the mind. If I cannot get rid of the mind which is having all this bias, there cannot be any liberation for me. So it's not just mere physical renunciation, but the renunciation has to extend to as per all the desires, the latent impressions of the mind is concerned. And how is it possible? That, as we were speaking of, by shifting your awareness from the ego to the self, constantly contemplating that I am the self, I am the self. And that way you can get rid of your attachment with the so-called the microcosm, that which is within. So there are two things which has been spoken of here. One is the body and another is the mind. This body is constantly going through change. How? Jara, Vyadhi, Mrityu. Even we find in the life of Gautam Buddha, that was the revelation. When he for the first time went out of the palace, what he saw? The old man. A person who is diseased. And then he saw someone being carried. He has died. Jara, Vyadhi, Mrityu. This decay, disease, death. So this entails to the body. So it cannot be the self, because it's constantly going through this change. The mind constantly is fluctuating. Now it is happy, now it is again dejected. It is fully immersed in sorrow, constantly changing. But the one who is witnessing, is there any change? No. The one who is witnessing, do I ever feel I, as a small child, is different from the I who has grown up? No, it's the same I. The body has changed, our way of thinking has changed, everything has changed. But the one who is witnessing that, the one whom I identify with myself as I, is there any change in it? No. With all the changes I feel, it is the same I who was a small child, it is the same I who has grown up now as an elderly person. So that I is a witness, there is no change in it. That is the self. Constantly try to identify yourself with that, who is the witness. And everything else is just changing. When you are unhappy, say the mind is unhappy, not me. When I am happy, yes, it is the mind who is happy. Because of certain circumstances, it is happy. Because of certain circumstances, it is again dejected. But I am the one who is the witness, who has as such no identification either with the happiness or with the sorrow. I am just the mere witness. That's how we are constantly asserting our identification with the self. So that's the abhyasa, which has been spoken of in the 290th verse. And lingam also means the signs which pertains to our worldly existence. That also in another sense. What that? If I am a rich person, my dress itself will say, I am wearing some costly suit, very expensive suit, I have a very expensive car, and this all define me. If I belong to a particular, this caste like Brahmin, the sacred thread, that again distinguishes me from others. So these lingams also has to be, you have to detach yourself from that. That's why we find very interesting. Sri Ramakrishna, when he was intensely practicing, going through his intense spiritual practices, every day night he will go to this Panchavati, so where the small grove was there in Dakshineshwar, and there, while sitting under the tree for meditation, he will remove all the external marks. That being a Brahmin, he had the sacred thread, he will remove. He will hang it on the tree. Why? That these all creates the distinction. I am greater, you are small. All these hierarchies created by all this sign, they have to be discarded. So that also is the meaning of lingam. In one sense it is the mind, in another sense all the attributes which we adhere to ourselves to demarcate ourselves from others. They are also the lingam, the signs. They also have to be rejected if we really have to get identified with the self. Otherwise they will create with the ego. The ego will be nourished with all those things. We can never ever get rid of them in any way. So that's why all these external attributes which demarcates me, which identifies me as something in the higher in the hierarchy of this social order, they have to be renounced. And then the parak, this external, what I am seeing in the external world, that has to be rejected. How? So in the 291st verse, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is resorting to is taking an example. What is the example? Example of a mirror. Let us read the verse and then we will go to the meaning of the verse. Yatraisha jagat abhaso darpanantam purang yatha tat brahma ahamiti gyatva krita krityo bhavishyasi. So that in which there is a reflection of the universe. So in the mirror, so when you are driving the car in the mirror, and you can see there's all the landmarks, the buildings, everything, which is behind, it appears as if on the other side of the mirror. Are they real? Are all those things which are reflected in the mirror do really exist? As per the reflection is concerned, are they exist? No. The reflections, so inside the mirror is real. That's the substratum. But all the things which are reflected, they as such has no, as per the reflection is concerned, they have no reality. They are mere reflections. So, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya in this verse, what he is saying? The entire world is as if just a reflection on the self. It has no such tangible reality. So that's why you have to, thinking it just a reflection, you have to renounce. As we have given that example, to understand this in the modern days, it has become easy. As in the last class, also some other class, we were indicating this example which we give again and again. Anything, any color which I see of any external object, suppose anything, there is a, a ceramic glass which is a blue color. I think that is blue, but it is not blue. What has happened? The conscious principle has activated the mind. The mind is now active. Now, the light is touching my retina. The function of light stops there. And then what happens? That light gets converted into optical nerve current. It is just like an electric current. And then the so-called power, this color center, will be projecting the color. The color is projected from the mind. It is not that the external object has any color. It is projected from the mind to envelop that object, so-called object, to give the color which I feel as if is the color of that thing. The same thing is actually applies to our sound. Whatever I'm hearing, is the sound entering my brain through which my mind is working? No. Again, the same thing. It touches the so-called the eardrum. The eardrum vibrates. The function of sound is over there. After that, again, it gets converted into some nerve current, which is being transmitted, which is taken to that so-called the sound center. All these sounds, the distinct words, the language, everything is generated by the mind. Even with the common science, we can understand this. So that's what the reflection is spoken of. That what is everything, the self is activating the mind, and it is the mind which is projecting the things. So are these things real? No, these things are just mere projections. As such, nothing is blue. As such, nothing, the words which we are speaking, that way it doesn't exist at all. They are all the projections of the mind. So in that sense, they are all just the reflections. So that way, now you will understand that why Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is taking the example of a mirror. Now inside the mirror, the things which I am seeing reflected, a small child, you will find that for the first time, suppose there is a mirror, stand-alone mirror in a marketplace, in some shopping mall, there is a stand-alone mirror. The child for the first time goes and stands in front of the mirror, sees himself reflected or herself reflected. It will run behind the mirror. You have seen this even with the dogs, it happened, thinking that someone is there. Is anyone there? No. So that's the idea, that what is appearing as reflect is not there. A small child who never has the idea of the reflection takes it to be real. He goes behind the mirror to see that who is there. And that's how, after running 2-3 times, gradually he gets the idea of reflection. So the thing reflected is as such not real. In that way, the world which is reflected in the self is not real. So all these upamas, the examples has to be taken in a limited sense, because in those days, when Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is writing this commentary, the way we have all this, the scientific knowledge at present, the scientific terminology at present, it was not there in those times. To explain something has been projected, the best thing he got is the mirror. Now, from our standpoint, we will say the world is real. That's why it is reflected. It is not behind that, but it on the other side is real. But Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is not having any such instance by which he can give some comparative study of that the thing which is reflected is not real. So in this example, we have to take it in this limited sense, that the world which is out there as real, that is reflected. So how can you say this world is unreal? Not in that sense. The limited sense that forget about the world which is there. The thing which I am saying reflected on the other side of the mirror, is it there? It is not there. So similarly, with that limited idea, you have to extend to understand that the entire world is a projection of the self. It is not actually there. So in that sense, it is unreal. So that's being taken as an example by Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya. So what he's saying, Yatraisha Jagat Abhaso Darpanantam Purang Yatha. In the mirror, you see the entire city. Is the city there anywhere in the mirror inside? Inside the mirror? No. What is there? Only the mirror. Tat Brahma Aham Iti Gyatva Krita Kritya Bhavishyasi. Knowing that it is a projection, you become, what you say, the self-fulfilled. Nothing in this world can satisfy you. You yourself are always fulfilled. Knowing that it is a reflection, don't get attached, drawn to it, becomes self-fulfilled. So this idea, that these examples we repeat again and again, because the scripture, when we are studying, this repetition, how it helps to exactly understand that particular verse. We may feel that we are repeating again and again, but these ideas, these examples, unless you can relate with this verse, that verse doesn't become, that the meaning of the verse doesn't shine forth. It doesn't give you the meaning. So that's why the same, after all, it is a very few ideas with which the entire scriptures are there. You have to just pick up the exact example to understand the verse, and then meaning becomes clear. So that by knowing that the world is as unreal as the reflection seen in the mirror, become fulfilled. I will say how we can become fulfilled. So now the example of that Swami Vivekananda again comes to that picture. That Swamiji is saying that I was traveling through the desert. I was thirsty. I was in search of water. I saw a huge reservoir. I started proceeding towards it. It vanished. After some time I saw it vanished. And then the idea came to my mind. From childhood, I have read about the mirage in my textbook. I had an intellectual idea of this mirage. I thought I knew what mirage is, but I have never experienced. For the first time I experienced. And now I understood that my all intellectual knowledge was of no use, because I was drawn towards it. If intellectual knowledge was itself sufficient, I wouldn't have been drawn by this so-called reservoir, which I thought to be real. So the experience was needed. So I experienced it today. And now how it makes difference? The next day, when again I am traveling through the desert, again I am feeling thirsty, I see the reservoir, but the reservoir cannot now drag me. It has lost its hold on me. So this is the idea which we have to understand, to have the idea of Krita Kritya. That this world as such is just something which is apparent. The way I think it real, and I feel that all my desires are to be fulfilled by outreaching and trying to get all the objects of desire from this tangible world. That's an illusion. Everything is a mere projection. Once I experience that, then once I know it's not real, it's something apparent, it's virtual, then automatically the desire for getting drawn towards it falls off naturally. And then you get established in the self, which is beyond all want. It is always fulfilled. And then there is no need for this eternal craving. In our world, we are always, constantly we are desiring something. And we find our desire is never fulfilled. The moment it is fulfilled, again a new craving comes. They say it is like a hedonistic treadmill. A treadmill, hellish, hedonistic means hellish. When you are running on a treadmill, you will find what you will find. You are running in the same place. You are running, but you don't go anywhere. You are running in the same place. Our desires are like that. It never gets fulfilled. That's why we can never become krita kritya. Krita kritya. Krita means to do something, by doing something to get fulfilled. So that never happens. That by doing something, I find never the fulfillment is coming. Again the desire comes. It's a very, very delusional chain in which we have fallen constantly in that. Why it happens? Very interesting. It's just a working of the nature through us. The nature wants to be sustained. That nature wants to sustain itself. But how to sustain itself? It can sustain by two things. By sustenance and by propagation. That I exist, each and every individual exists, but it won't exist through eternity. So it should have offsprings. It should have offsprings. And through that nature will continue. So you will find all our desires at last can be boiled down to three desires. All desires. What are they? This one is called putraishana, vittaishana and lokaishana. Putraishana, desire for children, offspring. Putraishana, vittaishana, desire for wealth. And yashaishana, desire for name and fame. You will find, you try to analyze, all our desires at last can be boiled down to these three. It will fall in either in three or any of these three categories. And we will find that fulfillment of this desire gives us tremendous happiness. Now let us try to find out the nature of happiness. We will find a very interesting thing. The moment the desire gets fulfilled, we are tremendously happy. But it doesn't continue. The next moment it evaporates. It's no more there. It evaporates. But we always remember, our memory is very, very selective. We always remember the ecstasy. We forget the evaporation. You will find that always it happens. That if you try to remember your past, you will find the past is always good. My childhood was so nice. Because the memory, what it does, it is very selective. It will keep in your memory only the pleasurable things. All the struggles which you have gone through, that will be washed off from the memory. Why? Very interesting. The nature to sustain itself, what it does? See, what it has to do? It has to make us fulfill those three desires. Why these three desires? With wealth, I buy my food. If I don't take food, I cannot sustain myself. So, this vittaishana results in sustenance. Putraishana, the lust, which helps in propagation. Yashaishana, the desire for name and fame, that also helps in propagation. You will say, how? You look at the animal kingdom. The lion, the male lion has its own territory. It won't allow any other male lion to enter. Why? The stronger it is, the more chances of propagating its genes is there. So even as a human being, the same thing. Why I want to excel in life? You will find at last the reason is to have a partner through which I will extend my family, to have a good partner, so that my genes will be propagated. So all these three, this putraishana, vittaishana and lokaishana, all these desires is linked with the propagation of the nature. And the nature has fooled us in such a way. How it has fooled us? The moment a desire is fulfilled, you get an ecstasy. That becomes a motivation factor. That you get some happiness. But it won't stay that you had a tremendous dopamine secretion. But it won't remain in that top, level for all for once. Immediately it will evaporate. Why it evaporates? If after having food, I am satiated, and that satiation is for always, I won't have food again. And that will lead to the disintegration. I will die. So it has to evaporate. But I always remember the so-called, the climax. I forget the evaporation. Why? If I always remember the struggle, I won't be motivated to do the thing. So the mind makes us in such a way that it makes us forget the struggles. Only it makes us keeps in memory the ecstasy. And another thing is there. You will find whenever I'm anticipating, Oh, today in the evening I will go to the restaurant to have a meal with my friends or with my family. When you are planning, you will find you are so excited. But by the time you are already in the restaurant with the family, you find you are getting bored. Already your ecstasy has become flat. Why it happens? When you are anticipating, the mind, what it is, the nature, what it is doing, it is giving you ecstasy. Because that will give you the motivation. But once you are in it, once you are already in the restaurant, the nature finds there is no need to motivate. It is already doing the act. So it evaporates. So if you see the nature of happiness, you will find that happiness is not something which has been planned by the nature to give us. It is a tool by which it is making us do something by which the nature is maintained. So that's the idea which we find has been explained by the word kritakritya. So you can never be kritakritya. We are in a hedonistic treadmill. The moment the desire is fulfilled, again I chase after it, again it's gone. I am as if running in the same place without any destination. In one of the poems of Swami Vivekananda, how nicely is saying that ever running, never reaching, nor a distant glimpse of shore. That's what the sunset world is. Swami Vivekananda in one of his lectures gives a very nice example. In the olden days, in the village, in the village, how the oil used to be grinded. The oil used to be grinded in a very nice way. In this olden days where there's machineries were not there, the bullock used to, there will be two stones. One stone will be revolving over the other, and all the oil seeds will be kept between the two stones, and the top stone has to revolve. Now how to make it revolve? It will be tied to some bull, and that bull has to go round and round. Now how to make the bull go round and round? They used to tie one stick on the head of the bull, and in front of that stick they will hang some straw. The bull is constantly trying to get the straw, but it cannot get because it is tied with a stick. The straw moves and the bullock also goes on moving. So Swamiji says our condition is like that. All the worldly desires are like that straw, and we are like the bull constantly chasing. And what's happening? We are going through this eternal cycle of life and death. There are so many birth, transmigration. That's what the will speaks of. This will of life, which the Jivan Chakra is going on. We lie, again the desires make us take birth, and we are never satiated. But once you know that this external world is just a mere projection, as the self you are always fulfilled. Because of that ignorance, what's the ignorance? I took the reflection to be real. And that's the cause of my spiritual death. That we speak of this Greek character, the Greek legendary character, the Narcissus. From that Greek character Narcissus, the word narcissistic has come. Narcissus is narcissistic. Who is called narcissistic? The one who is extremely self-possessed is called narcissistic. He doesn't bother about anything, just constantly he is possessed with himself. So, how this word Narcissus has become narcissistic? Then this Greek Narcissus character was very interesting. He was extremely handsome, and he was so possessed by his own beauty that he never took care of any of his responsibilities. He was a prince, crown prince, but he would never take care of any of his responsibilities. Whenever the time permitted, he will go to the backyard of his palace, and there was a huge reservoir. He will stand on the bank of the reservoir and see his own reflection. And seeing his own beauty, he was so infatuated. Spent hours just seeing that his own beauty. And one day, he was so infatuated, he took the reflection to be real. He wanted to embrace it. He felt emotionally tremendous attraction towards it and wanted to embrace it. He jumped on the reservoir and he drowned and died. That's the Greek legendary character Narcissus. From that the word narcissistic has come. In spiritual sense, we are all narcissistic. In the self, this world has been reflected. In the self, I see this reflection. Take this to be real and jump to trying to embrace it, and that's the cause of our spiritual death. And we go on, life after life, in this cycle of birth and death. So once I understand that this all are mere reflection, I am the self, which is ever in bliss. There is no need for any external factor to fulfill me. And then I become kritakritya, just by being detached from it. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the 291st verse. So this, all the verses, with the help of various examples, that's what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do, what Bhagavad Shankaracharya is trying to do, that these two types of practices, vairagya and abhyasa. That's what, when you see the external world, try to develop detachment. In Bhagavad Gita also the same thing has been mentioned. These two practices, abhyasa and vairagya. Vairagya for the external world, and when I dive within and I find that I am a bundle of thoughts, emotions, feelings, how to get rid of them? By constantly contemplating on this idea that I am the self, not the body, not the mind, not the senses. This speaks of abhyasa. So that's how the pindanda, the one which is within, and the brahmanda, which is outside, the world which is outside, these both can be rejected just as something filth. That's the idea which Bhagavad Shankaracharya has spoken of in the 289th verse, and he has elaborated in the remaining 3 verses. So this idea will continue till the 307th verse. We will gradually take the other verses where other allegories, examples are given to elaborate this idea and to make us aware of the practice, which we will take up again in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.